Ladies and gentlemen, when you wake up in the morning, before the world starts making demands on your attention, you have a choice, and that choice is far greater than most people realize. You can decide to simply live your life, or you can decide to lead it. And those two paths are worlds apart. Living is easy. It's reactive. It means you allow the day to dictate your actions, your thoughts, and your emotions. You drift through the hours as if you were a passenger in your own existence. And then you wonder why things feel stagnant, why you feel powerless, why the same problems seem to follow you year after year. Leading your life, on the other hand, is something entirely different. It is the conscious act of taking the wheel, of deciding not only where you want to go, but how you're going to get there and what you're willing to endure along the way. The psychological reality is this: people who lead their lives do not wait for the perfect conditions. They do not wait until they feel motivated, because they know motivation is fleeting. They know that if they rely on inspiration alone, they will accomplish little. Instead, they operate on a principle of responsibility. A principle that says, if this is my life, then everything in it is my responsibility, even the things I didn't choose. That is a difficult pill to swallow, because when you decide to lead, you lose the luxury of blaming the world for your lack of progress. But here's the paradox. The very moment you take ownership, even over circumstances that weren't your fault, you reclaim your power, because now you're no longer waiting for the world to change. You're changing yourself in such a way that the world must respond differently. Leadership in your own life is not about grand gestures or public recognition. It's about the little, often unseen decisions you make daily. Deserves a seat. It's in the way you choose to respond when something goes wrong. In whether deserves a seat, it's in whether you start your day scrolling through a glowing rectangle or sitting for 10 minutes to decide what kind of person you're going to be in the next 12 hours. It's in whether you let fear dictate your choices, or whether you walk straight into it because you've decided that avoidance is no longer acceptable. And I'll tell you something that may sting. If you don't lead your own life, someone else will. The world is full of systems, institutions, and even individuals who will happily set your priorities for you if you fail to set them yourself. Advertisers will decide what you should want. Employers will decide how much your time is worth. Strangers on the internet will decide what you should be angry about, and you will find yourself living by default, as if you were following a script written by people who don't even know your name. The great tragedy is that many people don't even realize this is happening to them. They think they're making choices, but in reality, they're merely selecting from a menu that someone else has handed them. Leadership means throwing away that men and writing your own. It means deciding, this is the life I will live, even if no one else approves, even if it costs me relationships, comfort, or temporary security. But why is this so hard? Because to lead means to accept uncertainty. To live as a leader is to walk a path where there are no guarantees, where you may fail and be blamed, where you may be misunderstood and criticized. And human beings are wired to avoid all of that. We seek safety and predictability. But safety and predictability, when taken too far, become cages. Leadership smashes the lock on that cage, but you have to be willing to walk out into the unknown. And here's the truth. You don't start leading your life when everything is under control. You start when things are messy, when you feel unprepared, when you feel like you're not ready. Because readiness is not a prerequisite for leadership. Leadership is what creates readiness. So tomorrow morning, when you open your eyes, before you reach for your phone, before you step into the routine that's been set on repeat for years, I want you to look yourself in the mirror. Really look. And say, I choose to lead my life, not just live it. Say it until you believe it. Say it until you feel the weight of it. And then act accordingly. Make one decision that reflects leadership, no matter how small. Take one action that says, I am the author of this day. Because life will go on whether you lead it or not. The clock will keep ticking. The seasons will change. Years will pass. And one day you'll look back and realize you either shaped your life or you were shaped by everything else. The choice every single morning is yours. Most people wake up every morning with an unspoken hoping that today will be comfortable, that nothing will disturb them too much, nothing will challenge them deeply, and nothing will push them beyond what they already know they can handle. We've been conditioned, almost without realizing it, to see comfort as the reward and discomfort as the punishment. But the truth is, it's often the exact opposite. If you trace back every significant breakthrough in your life, whether it was personal, professional, emotional, or spiritual, you'll notice something. Before the growth, every deserves a seat, there was discomfort. Before the strength, there was struggle. Before the clarity, there was confusion. It's a pattern as old as human existence. The seed pushes against the soil before it becomes a tree. The muscle tears before it grows stronger. The mind wrestles with uncertainty before it understands. And yet, despite this universal truth, we avoid discomfort as if it were poison. We treat it like an intruder instead of recognizing it as an invitation. That's why telling yourself every single morning, "Discomfort is my gateway to growth," is so powerful. It changes the way you interpret the challenges of the day. Suddenly, when something feels hard, when a conversation makes you uneasy, when a task stretches your limits, you stop seeing it as an obstacle to avoid and start seeing it as a doorway you are meant to walk through. Psychologically, this is transformative. Because the human brain is wired for efficiency, it seeks out the familiar and resists the unfamiliar. It's not because you're weak or incapable. It's because your biology is designed to conserve energy. Discomfort feels threatening, so your mind automatically tries to pull you back to what's safe. But here's the paradox: staying in what's safe often becomes the most dangerous thing you can do. Not because it will harm you immediately, but because it will slowly erode your potential until you wake up one day realizing you've been standing still for years. That's why I say, discomfort is not your enemy, stagnation is. And often, the only way to escape stagnation is to deliberately step into the very things you're tempted to avoid. The difficult conversation, the new skill, the physical challenge, the uncertain opportunity. Every one of those things carries with it an initial sting of discomfort, but if you can push through that sting, on the other side you will find growth. Think of it this way: if you want to become stronger, you don't lift weights that are easy. You lift weights that make your muscles tremble. If you want to become wiser, you don't read only what you already agree with. You engage with ideas that challenge your assumptions. If you want deeper relationships, you don't avoid vulnerability. You lean into it, even though it feels uncomfortable. Every form of growth follows the same law. The path forward is paved with experiences that demand more of you than you think you have. But here's where it gets interesting. When you consciously choose discomfort, it loses much of its power to intimidate you. Voluntary hardship is one of the most liberating things you can practice. If you seek out small, manageable discomforts each day, whether that's waking up earlier than you want to, taking a cold shower, speaking up when you'd rather stay silent, or pushing through one more hour of disciplined work, you build the inner strength to handle the bigger, unavoidable discomforts that life will throw at you. This is why some of the greatest minds and leaders in history have talked about the necessity of struggle. They understood that a life stripped of discomfort is also stripped of meaning, deserves a seat. It's the challenge that makes the victory worth something. It's the climb that makes the view breathtaking. If you remove the friction, you remove the transformation. So tomorrow morning, when you feel that resistance, when you're tempted to take the easy route, pause and remember, this is my gateway. This is not happening to weaken me, but to forge me. That tightness in your chest before you speak up in a meeting, that's your gateway. That hesitation before you try something new, that's your gateway. That frustration when you can't master something right away, that's your gateway. And the beautiful thing is, once you start walking through these gateways, discomfort stops feeling like a threat and starts feeling like a signpost. You'll recognize it not as a warning to turn back, but as proof that you're on the right path. Because if you're never uncomfortable, you're not growing, you're repeating. In the end, comfort will keep you alive, but discomfort will make you alive. And the difference between those two states is everything. So don't wait for the easy days. Don't pray for a lighter load. Train yourself to carry more. Embrace the discomfort because it's not here to break you. It's here to build you every day. Before you even step outside, before you speak to a single person, before the first challenge of the day presents itself, there's already a battle happening, and it's inside your own head. Most people don't even realize it's taking place. They wake up, open their eyes, and instantly surrender. They let their thoughts drift to worries, to regrets, to distractions, to everything they cannot control. And just like that, before the day has even begun, they've lost. The truth is, the mind is the most powerful battleground you'll ever step onto, no matter what happens in the external world. Success, failure, praise, criticism. Your inner dialogue determines how you interpret it, how you respond to it, and ultimately, how much it shapes you. If you lose that inner battle, it doesn't matter what resources you have, what opportunities are handed to you, or how much potential you carry. You'll find a way to sabotage it. And if you win that inner battle, Even in the absence of perfect circumstances, you'll find a way to move forward. The danger is that the battle begins the moment you wake up, and the first few minutes of your day often set the tone for the next 16 hours. If you start your morning reacting, checking your phone, scrolling through social media, reading bad news before you've even taken a deep breath, you've already allowed the outside world to dictate your mental state. You've given your power away before you've even left the bed. That's why the phrase, "I will win the battle of my mind before the world even wakes," is so critical. It's a conscious declaration that you're not going to let external chaos control your internal stability. It's a commitment to establishing your own mental framework before the world tries to impose one on you. This isn't just a motivational idea. It's backed by psychology. Research shows that your mental state upon waking has a ripple effect on your decision-making, emotional regulation, and stress response for the rest of the day. If you begin your day with discipline, intentionality, and focus, you're far more resilient to the inevitable stressors that come later. But if you start in a state of distraction and reaction, you'll spend the rest of the day chasing stability instead of living from it. Winning this battle doesn't have to be complicated, but it does have to be deliberate. It might mean starting with 5 minutes of silence before anything else. It might mean writing down 3 priorities instead of letting your day get hijacked by a to-do list you didn't create. It might mean speaking affirmations out loud, not because they're magical, because they focus your attention on what matters. You're essentially building mental armor before stepping into the arena. And here's the key. This battle isn't won once. It's fought every single day. Some mornings you'll feel strong, motivated, unstoppable. Other mornings you'll feel like your thoughts are scattered, your willpower is weak, and the weight of life is pressing down on you before you've even moved. Those are the mornings when winning matters most, because it's easy to have a strong mind when everything feels right. The real test is whether you can hold that ground when nothing does. People often ask why their lives feel chaotic, why they can't seem to get control, why they feel like they're always reacting. The answer is simple. They're trying to fight the world without first securing their own mind. It's like walking into battle without a shield. The first hit knocks you down. But when you've won internally, the external blows don't land the same way. The criticism doesn't penetrate. The setbacks don't paralyze you. The distractions don't pull you off course as easily. So tomorrow morning, before you look at a screen, before you open your email, before you let the demands of others flood in, remind yourself, this is my mind. This is my battleground, and I will win here first. Because if you win in here, the world out there becomes infinitely more navigable. The truth is, you can't control the noise of the world, but you can control whether that noise takes root inside you. And the people who build great lives, the ones who rise above mediocrity, are not necessarily the ones who have fewer problems. They're the ones who have mastered their inner state so thoroughly that the world has no choice but to adjust around them. So decide every morning that before the world even wakes, before the first demand hits your ears, you will already have claimed victory where it matters most. Because if you win the battle of your mind, you have already won the day. We live in a world where it's easier than ever to consume and harder than ever to create. Everywhere you turn, something is vying for your attention. Videos, headlines, notifications, advertisements, all designed to pull you in, to keep you watching, scrolling, clicking. The average person spends hours each day absorbing content that they didn't choose intentionally, and by the time they look up, the day is gone. And then they wonder why their life feels stagnant, why nothing is moving forward, why they feel drained but not fulfilled. Consumption in itself isn't bad. You need to consume to learn, to gather information, to be inspired. But the danger lies in the imbalance. If your life is tilted toward constant consumption with little creation, everything deserves a seat, you will always feel like something's missing because you're taking in far more than you're putting out. You're breathing in, but never exhaling. That's why telling yourself each morning, "Today I will create more than I consume," is such a powerful declaration. It shifts you from being a passive receiver of life to an active contributor. It forces you to think not just about what you're taking in, but about what you're giving back. To your work, to your relationships, to your community, to the world. The psychology behind this is profound. Human beings are wired for purpose, and purpose is almost always tied to contribution. When you create, whether it's writing a single paragraph, solving a problem at work, cooking a meal, designing something new, or even having a meaningful conversation, you're leaving a mark that didn't exist before you. That act affirms your place in the world. It reminds you that you're not just a spectator in this story, you're a participant. But here's the trap most people fall into. They confuse preparation for creation. They think watching another video about fitness is the same as training. They think reading about business is the same as building one. They think scrolling through inspirational quotes is the same as living an inspired life. It's not. A consumption without creation can be a form of procrastination dressed up as productivity. Creating more than you consume doesn't mean you have to produce something monumental every day. It means you decide from the moment you wake up that you will add something of value to the world before you get lost in the endless stream of things competing for your attention. It's not about volume, it's about direction. One meaningful act of creation can outweigh hours of mindless consumption. Think about the energy shift this brings. When you create, you're engaging the parts of your brain that innovate, that solve problems, that connect dots in new ways. You're not just passively absorbing, you're actively shaping. You're building something tangible or intangible that will exist beyond the moment. That could be a business, a piece of art, a new skill, a deeper bond with someone you care about, or even a stronger body. And something else happens when you commit to creating more than you consume. You naturally become more intentional about what you consume in the first place. Instead of passively letting information wash over you, you start consuming with purpose. You seek out knowledge that fuels your creativity. You filter distractions because they no longer fit into the equation of the life you're building. Consumption becomes the raw material for creation, not an escape from it. Of course, there's resistance. Creation takes energy. It requires effort and vulnerability. When you create, you risk failure. You risk criticism. You risk putting a piece of yourself into the world and having it misunderstood or ignored. But that's the price of impact. And it's a price worth paying, because the alternative is a slow drift into irrelevance, where your days are spent watching other people live boldly while you settle for the sidelines. So tomorrow morning, before you open that first app, before you consume what the world wants you to see, ask yourself, what will I create today? And don't let the day end until you've answered it with action. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be big. But it has to exist. Because the truth is, everything deserves a seat. Your life will not be measured by how much you've consumed, but by what you've created. The ideas you've shared, the problems you've solved, the people you've influenced, the love you've given, the beauty you've added. So decide now, every morning today, I will create more than I consume, and let that decision shape everything else you do.